Hello everyone. So in this video, I'll be discussing how does the autonomic nervous system play a role in contractility. But before I get into the role of the ANS and how does it work, I'm gonna explain how contraction happens in the first place. To begin with, an action potential takes place. So then calcium will enter the cell. However, this calcium is not enough to cause a contraction. We know that to cause a contraction, I need calcium. Contractility is dependent on the intracellular calcium concentration. But this calcium entry is not enough to cause a contraction. What this entry does is that it will trigger something called the ryanodine receptors, which are in the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Sarcoplasmic reticulum has calcium stored inside it. So the entry of calcium from outside will trigger these receptors to tell them, please give me more calcium, which you have stored inside SR, please let it enter into the cytoplasm. So the entry of calcium from outside, from the extracellular into the intracellular, is called the calcium trigger. And then the calcium trigger will cause these ryanodine receptors to make calcium be released from SR. This is because they work on a mechanism known as the calcium-induced calcium release. So calcium actually induces the more calcium release from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, so then contraction will take place. Let me show you this diagram. So action potential, calcium enters, this is called the trigger. Calcium-induced calcium release from the SR, binding to troponin, this is the normal contraction, which we already know. And then to cause relaxation, because I don't want contraction to take place forever continuously, I need to relax the cell at some point, calcium will go back into the SR. The more calcium I have in the intracellular, the stronger the contraction. How does the intracellular calcium concentration depends on what? It depends on two things. The amount of the calcium trigger, so the amount of calcium entering the cell. The more calcium enters the cell, the stronger the trigger, so more calcium will be released from the SR. Another factor that is affecting this is the amount of calcium stored in the SR in the first place. If I don't have a lot of calcium already present in the SR, so not a lot will be released because I don't have much stored. So two things affect the intracellular calcium concentration. First of all, the strength of the trigger and also the amount stored inside. Let us see how the sympathetic nervous system plays a role in this. First of all, sympathetic works with norepinephrine and epinephrine. It will interact with the beta receptor, activating GS protein, which activates adenylate cyclase. So norepinephrine beta receptor, GS, and then adenylate cyclase. The adenylate cyclase enzyme, what it does is that it will increase my CAMP intracellular concentration. CAMP will now activate protein kinases, and we know that kinase means what? Phosphorylation. What is it gonna phosphorylate? Two things. Number one, these channels, the ones that, what are they doing? They are allowing the calcium to enter inside. And what did we call this? The calcium trigger. So this activation is increasing the calcium trigger. It is also phosphorylating the phospholambin protein, which is in the sarcoplasmic reticulum. What is the phospholambin protein doing? It is activating the ATPase calcium channel to increase the entry of calcium into the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and this is sometimes a confusion for people. Why am I increasing the entry of calcium into sarcoplasmic when I'm actually aiming to increase contractility? We said to increase contractility, I need more calcium to be in the intracellular area. Why am I telling it to enter again? How is this increasing contractility? So as we said, to increase contractility, I need to increase calcium intracellular concentration. And we said this depends on two things, the calcium trigger and also the calcium stored inside the sarcoplasmic reticulum. So what the phospholambin is doing, this whole step, its aim is to increase the amount of calcium inside the SR. This is what it's trying to do. If I have a lot of calcium stored inside, then it means in the next heartbeats, I will have a stronger contraction because I already have calcium prepared. So it's like preparing it for future beats. And also it has another goal, which is causing relaxation to happen faster, which means I have a more brief contraction. So contractions are happening faster and future contractions will happen stronger. I hope that this is clear. Now, as for the parasympathetic, it's doing the complete opposite. It is interacting with the muscarinic receptor, which will activate the GI protein and it will inhibit the adenylate cyclase. So none of this will happen. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching.